Okay, we had a technical difficulty there. Picking up where we left off, the syntax for the file writer is, actually we have to first start with file writer. So something like this would work, file writer. Then we give it a name, we'll call it FW equals new file writer. And this is going to be the file name that we get from the user. We'll put the code in to get this data in a moment. And then print writer is what enables us to write to the file that we just will open with the file writer. No, this should be different. FW goes here. So now we'll put in the question. You ask the user for the file name. And file name will equal keyboard dot next line, right? We also need to know how many roles. So it's up to you if you want to ask that first or second. I'll go ahead and insert it here. And we're going to store that in our variable num roles. That's going to be an int. Now, something that I've learned from playing with this is that when we read in an int using next int, it doesn't read in the whole line. There's going to be a new line character after this. So in order to get past that new line character and make this next line work properly, we actually have to use the next line method again in order to get past the previous new line character. And I'll also throw in right now the code to initialize the random number generator. So I'm naming my random object random number. Okay, now we're going to roll the dice and write the output to a file. So we probably need a loop. Yep. Oh, thank you. So what type of loop should we use? Our options are for loop, while loop, or do loop. Which is best for this situation and why? Do we know how many times we're going to repeat this loop? Actually, we do, because the user is going to tell us. Okay, I mean, we don't know before we ask the user, but after we ask the user, we do know exactly how many times to repeat. So for that reason, I would recommend a for loop. And no, don't get me wrong, you could use a while loop or do while loop and make it work, but I think the for loop makes the most sense. So we're going to use the counter variable x that we declared above, initialize it to 1, and we're going to repeat that while it is less than or equal to num rolls, which is the number provided by the user, and we're going to increment by 1. Now we're going to effectively roll the dice. And what is the syntax for that? So I'm using the random object, which I named random number. And what? Correct. Next int. And what goes in the parentheses? 6. And what this will do, as it stands right now, is this will generate a random whole number between 0 and 5. To make it a random number between 1 and 6, we just need to add 1 to that. No, because if you write 7, it would be 0 through 6. It starts at 0. Good question, though. So now here's die 2, same code. And we're going to write that to the file. And to do that, we need our print writer object, which we named PW. So PW dot, and we can use print or print line just like we can with system.out. PW dot print line. And we're just going to write the value of each of the die. So what would that look like? And let's put a comma in between. That's not enough. What would happen if it would add it together, right? We don't want to add them together. We want to display them separately. So we need to concatenate. So how do we turn that plus sign, which is an overloaded operator, from addition to concatenation? Put some quotes here, right? So there's a string that it has to concatenate. And I'll just put a comma and a space and then another plus sign. And so now it's concatenation. The value of die 1 concatenated with a comma and a space, and then concatenated with the value of die 2. And that should do it for the loop. Now, the other thing we need to do is to close the file. And that happens after the loop is done. And we also, the book doesn't actually cover this, but the best practice is also to close the keyboard scanner object. Depending on the operating system you're using, if you do not close the scanner object, you may get a warning. Now, I did not get a warning on Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Mac OS 10, but I had a student with Windows Vista, and he had the same version of Java. He did not close the keyboard or the scanner object, which he also named keyboard, and he got a warning. The program still ran, but there was a warning. So we're going to close the scanner object as well. And we need our last closing curly brace. And if I've typed everything correctly, we should be good to go. Okay, I have a syntax there. I need another curly brace. Okay, I have some more errors. Oh, that's lowercase p in print line. Keyboard is spelled wrong. Same error here. Okay, now it compiled. Now, if you were programming this on your own, not making a recording of it, you would want a unit test. Okay, you, in other words, write just a couple of lines of code and then compile. Now, I'm not doing that in interest of saving time, but that's a general strategy that I recommend. So we can pick as many rows as we want. I'll pick 100. And what should we name the file? Call it dice.txt. I spelled that wrong. That's all right. So dict.txt. So now that file was written, assuming everything works properly, in the same directory as where we are currently located, because we didn't specify a different location. So we need to look in this directory where we are, chapter 4, which is under source code, etc. So I'm going to open Windows Explorer. So right-click on the Start button and choose Open Windows Explorer. That's the tool that you use to browse through your files. Not the same thing as Internet Explorer. And I know this is going to be on the C drive. Users, mcolta, documents, CISS110, source code, chapter 4, dict.txt. I'm going to open that, and there is the output, all written correctly. And it looks like it's working properly. Everything is within an acceptable range between 1 and 6. I don't see any outliers. So that's telling me that it seems to be working correctly. Any questions on that?
Wouldn't it be better to print the value onto the screen first and then write it to the file?
For testing purposes, yes. It's always a good idea to print to the screen first. Again, I didn't do that just in interest of saving time, but and also there should be a lot more comments than what I have here. Okay. Again, that's all in interest of saving time, just to get to the syntax of the code. But there should be a lot more comments. You should unit test. You can do more prints in the middle of while you're still writing your code. And whoever is printing, please stop. Thank you. But yes. Any other questions? All right.